It's the Kacee Allen Show.
Welcome to the Kacee Allen Show. I'm your host, Kacee Allen. I have unfortunate news that President Trump has been found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records. And this is something that we know that is complete hoax and a persecution of the justice system. And they charged him on all 34 counts. It's absolutely absurd and just proves more of what we thought to begin with. That the weaponization of justice being used against a former president and now presidential candidate is something that we've never seen before, and to this level. And the unlawful persecution of this man has been something that's never been in comparison to John Edwards and other presidential candidates who have literally done what President Trump has done at an enormous level. So if you're not familiar with Trump's Manhattan case, it all started in 2016 when American Media Incorporated, the parent company of the National Enquirer, paid $150,000 allegedly to Karen McDougal to suppress her story. Trump's then lawyer, Michael Cohen, who we all know is a crook, also allegedly paid $130,000 to Stormy Daniels to keep her from going public about the alleged affair with Donald Trump. And Cohen later claims that he was reimbursed by the Trump organization under the guise of legal fees, and he then pleaded guilty to campaign finance violations in connection to these payments. And it's even worth noting that Michael Cohen is such a lousy lawyer. He literally recorded Donald Trump having a private conversation, which is in violation of the law, and just shows how terribly ethical of a lawyer he is. He continuously screwed over Donald Trump and was accused of violating campaign laws, campaign finance laws. So then it gets to 2023, and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office began investigating Trump for these allegations that, again, were, 7 years before that? And only after he announced his presidential run for 2024. And that was in late 2022. The DOJ targeted him here. And they brought this case up, and on 7 years later in 2023, when the Manhattan District Attorney's Office began investigating Trump for these potential allegations and try to connect it to hush money payments. The investigation was focused on whether the Trump organization falsely recorded the reimbursement payments to Cohen as legal expenses. And then it was April of 2023, Trump was indicted by the Manhattan grand jury on the 34 counts of falsifying the records. The indictment alleged that Trump and his campaign considered to illegally influence the 2016 election by making hush money payments to Daniels and McDougal, then falsifying the payments as legal expenses. So that is ridiculous. That is what they're going to go off of here. Something that probably would be a misdemeanor is turned into 34 felonies. And again, goes back to 2016, which there was no legal motive to go after him only until he runs for president. It just shows how crooked all this is. So then you flash forward to May of 2024, this past month, when the trial officially began. Prosecutors argued that Trump and his company knowingly intentionally falsified records to conceal the hush money payments. Then the defense argued that the payments were made for personal reasons and not to influence the election, and that these charges were politically motivated, which they obviously are. I mean, we've never seen anyone with the political backing and support like Donald Trump right now. If you think about Obama, he never had the rallies like Trump has now. He never had people that would go out on arm's length and would really risk everything to defend a presidential candidate. And this is what the opposition fears. They know they're not going to win this by a fair election. They know they have to make Donald Trump look like a villain. They have to take him off social media like they tried in the previous instance. And who knows what they're going to try next. So this was actually the first time a former U.S. president was convicted of a felony. And when you think about all the former presidents that weren't convicted for felonies, and actually political leaders, I've got a list right here. I tweeted this out and it got 30,000 views the other day. But here's all of the infamous political leaders that have yet to face a criminal charge. And it's quite absurd. All right, so Bill Clinton, 0 charges. Obviously, he was behind the COVID vaccine. He's been manipulating the weather. He's been buying farmland. He's been wanting to destroy meat and ban private ownership. So, again, 0 charges there. Hillary Clinton, no charges. We all know her deal. The emails in 2016, bleach fit, cheating in the Democratic primary election against Bernie Sanders, Pizzagate. You know, the fact that her husband, and I should have mentioned this the first time, but Bill Clinton was a known friend of Epstein, or Jeffrey Epstein, visited Epstein Island 26 times. Hillary Clinton was married to Bill Clinton and allegedly didn't know about this. Okay. Moving on to Barack Obama. No charges. He literally killed innocent civilians with a drone attack. Nothing happened there. Joe Biden, 0 charges. I mean, the fact that he knowingly gave his son money to launder to Ukraine and various other countries. No accountability there. Hunter Biden, only 3 charges. After everything this guy has done and the mockery of the country that he's made of himself, he's only been charged 3 times. So just imagine if Donald Trump Jr. was in Hunter Biden's shoes. Imagine if this was him. I mean, this would be outrageous. It would never go away in the news. And yeah, Donald Trump Jr. would probably have more than 3 charges. That is almost guaranteed. Then you have George W. Bush. George W. Bush entered Iraq under false pretenses that there were weapons of mass destruction. Turns out there wasn't. Then we get attacked from the Middle East. We get the 9/11 attack, which was, many could say was incentivized by warmongers like Dick Cheney and George Bush. That's another conversation. But again, 0 charges. Dick Cheney, 0 charges. Anthony Fauci, currently in court, 0 charges so far. And he's been a genocider for a long time. He's literally been recorded in the 90s. I think there was a disease. He literally was responsible for killing thousands of people. And Jeremy Wilner actually testified and said this in 1991. You can go to my X page, and I have a post about that. Just type in Jeremy Wilner in the search bar, and it'll pop up. Alejandro Mayorkas, 0 charges. He literally got let off for letting 7.4 million illegals plus storm into our country. He calls them newcomers. He openly accepts this treason, and he was not prosecuted for it. Eric Adams, mayor of New York. How on earth he has that title is beyond me, because he's an actual criminal. And he's a joke. I don't know how he is in that position and how he's not been charged as well. Especially wanting to openly endorse the idea that we can bring in all these illegals into our country. We'll offer them $10,000 debit cards, free shelter, free food, all at the expense of the American taxpayer. Terrible idea. Who the hell votes for that? Then we have, here's where it gets really interesting. Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, 0 charges. This is the guy that called for the murder of Julian Assange, which is something that is, punishable by jail time. You can't offer the murder for somebody or basically conspire to do that. That's what he's doing there. He also was recorded dancing with the IDF, who had actually killed innocent civilians the night before. I posted this on X, actually, and it was taken down. This was probably a few months ago. I was really surprised by this because, this is supposed to be free speech and everything. But there are clearly limitations to that. Yeah, like I said, it was Mike Pompeo just dancing with some Israel soldiers who, it's not, I'm not making this up. They actually killed innocent civilians. It's on record that night, and Mike Pompeo was just dancing with them, celebrating. And I called it out for what it was, and, I guess that was too truthful for X to handle, but oh well. Then we have the intelligence agencies colluding with social media companies to interfere elections, 0 charges. Epstein client list, 0 charges. All Black Lives Matter protests combined. So all the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, from the George Floyd and all that crap that happened in New York, Illinois, all throughout the country, only 300 charges out of that. Not individual people, charges. So that's everybody combined. So that would be under 300, assuming everyone or certain people were charged more than once. Now, in perspective of that, think of how many January 6 protesters were charged, or how many total charges there were. 4 times as much, 1,250, compared to the 300 total Black Lives Matter protesters that were charged. That's ridiculous. That just another reason it shows the weaponization and the two-standard double-tier system we have in our country, that will put the leftists over anyone who is anti-establishment and overly conservative at this point, or just a nationalist. I mean, really. It's like they want to make nationalist a bad word. That's really where we're at. And then, yeah, this is the hypocrisy here. Donald Trump, 91 charges since 2016. It's insane. 0 charges before that, 0 criminal record, only when he challenges the status quo, runs for president, and does not do what the deep state wants him to do. Julian Assange, the man who literally proved Hillary Clinton stole the election in 2016 to beat Bernie Sanders, and the fact that our own country was bombing innocent people in Iraq. And he had that drone footage, and it was debunked at first by our government, and then he proved that it was actually real. They couldn't handle that. Ross Ulbricht, 7 charges, no life sentences, no chance of parole. Donald Trump has said he would hopefully pardon Ross Ulbricht, including Julian Assange. We'll have to see if that works or how that goes once he gets back in. And then finally, Edward Snowden, he faces a maximum of 30 years with just 3 charges alone. He exposed that our intelligence agencies were spying on our own country in 2008, then was charged with espionage and treason, and was forced to live in Russia. That's where he currently resides. He said that he would not get a fair trial in the United States if he tries to come back. And I actually believe him there. I think the current Department of Justice decisions would be very evident of that as to why you wouldn't get a fair trial, especially in Donald Trump's case. So that just, I didn't mean to spend too much time on that, but that is just a clear idea of the justice system in our country. It's always been like this to a point. I mean, it's blatantly obvious how bad it is now because the deep state is losing. They have to resort to these tactics. But before, it was not that evident that, these things were happening. It was there, but it wasn't to the point to where it was like, oh crap, this is real corruption. This is no chance of a fair trial. That's why you didn't see any of the previous presidents charged. You didn't see George Bush. You didn't see Barack Obama. And this is in the last 20 years. You didn't see any of these presidents face any of the decisions they made after they were out of office because, they're under immunity, or they're supposed to be at least. And that does not protect Donald Trump here. So it couldn't be any more obvious. They're trying to take our great nation. They're trying to destroy our constitutional republic. And they want to make this a democracy to where anyone can come into this country and vote. Anyone has the ability to infiltrate our country and do whatever they want. That's not what we were founded upon, and we have to keep fighting. But anyway, back to the case here. Donald Trump obviously was found guilty of the 34 felonies out of 34 counts. So they went to the extreme, they went to the max to get him here. And it's not like he went to jail. He simply will face a sentencing, I believe, July 15th, which is very strange. That is 11 days before the RNC, when the Republican National Committee comes together, or convention, and will elect, or officially elect, the candidate for the Republican Party, and which obviously we know that's Donald Trump. But it's very strange with the timing there. It's like, are they trying to make sure he doesn't get to the RNC? Is that their way of, like, I mean, that was not a coincidence. They definitely did that on purpose. That was 100% intentional. 100% deep state orchestrated. They are behind something. They know something that we don't. I can guarantee that. You can pretty much guarantee that. They have something that we don't. Because it's political theater. So I went on a mainstream media segment just a couple hours before the verdict actually came in. And I was quite wrong about my prediction. I thought this would last a week. I didn't think that this would happen within 2 days of the deliberation process. But I was right in a sense, because I said one of two things would happen. This is going to be a long process and Trump would be acquitted, or it's going to be very quick, within a day or so, and he would be found guilty. So I was right there, but yeah, here's a clip.
And it's a disgrace to this country. We've really never seen this at this level. And I think the results of this it's going to be a few things. I mean, we could possibly see him be acquitted, and it's going to either way show the corruption of the justice system, how they were wrong, or it's going to be they prosecute him to the fullest extent. And unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. And
do you think you could end up with yes or no? We could end there, Kacee. Is there a chance Trump might be given a jail sentence for this?
Yes, there is. I think the chances go down each day that the deliberations proceed. But yeah, I think it's very possible at this point. But like I said, it gets unlikely as each day goes on.
Immediately after the verdict came in, Donald Trump reacted to this and gave a speech. Here it is.
Thank you very much. Here we go again. 5 weeks. I've been here. I'm gagged. I'd like to answer all of your questions. They're very easy questions to answer, but I'm gagged, so I can't talk as much as I would like to about this ridiculous case that's hurting our country so badly. Some of the reviews from yesterday are and by the way, everyone's against this case. I haven't seen one legal scholar or expert in the law say that this case should have been filed. It should not have been filed, or at a minimum, it should have been filed 7 years ago. It's 7 years old. Everybody turned it down, including federal elections turned it down. Southern District turned it down. Bragg turned it down. Then he rejuvenated it when I was running for office. It's a terrible thing. At the request of Biden, the editors of the National Review say, acquit Trump. Bragg has failed to prove his charges. Totally failed. Greg Jarrett, who exactly was defrauded? Voters who had already voted. Well, they already voted because all of this stuff came in after the election. So how were they defrauded? And then you say, what about Hillary with the dossier? What about all of these other things that go? And this is nothing. This is nothing. But what about all of the corruption, the voter fraud that you've seen over the last year on behalf of the Democrats, and nobody talks about it? This is ridiculous what they're talking about. This is called running for office. Greg Jarrett, the government, which received full payment on all taxable income. The government, by the way, received full payment. The taxes were paid in full. In fact, they made comment on that. Even if the taxes were paid in full, the Federal Elections Commission had concluded the money paid did not constitute a campaign contribution under the law. And remember, this judge wouldn't allow us. Look, he's a very conflicted judge. Everybody knows that. You don't want to talk about what the conflict was. I'm not allowed to talk about it because of a gag order that he put on me. So one subject he really doesn't want to talk about. There was no fraud. There was no conspiracy. It's that simple. Moreover, without a primary crime, there can be no secondary crime. It's a classic lawfare, weaponizing statutes because the law has been, okay, ready? Because no law has been broken. That was Greg Jarrett. Ellie Honig, legal analyst for CNN. The crime here is not easy to explain or to understand. It's just not understandable. In other words, there is no crime. This is CNN. Catherine Christian from MSNBC, I call it MSDNC, legal analyst. It's difficult because it's a very nuanced argument. It's never been prosecuted before. This is an argument that has never been prosecuted before. And hopefully it'll never be prosecuted again. Andy McCarthy, this is anything but standard. It's the antithesis of standard, actually. The idea that they do not have to agree on what the other crime is. We spent 6 weeks wondering, what is the other crime? What is the other crime? And at the end, the thud we all get is this. There's 3 or 4 of them, and you could pick one from the other, and they don't have to agree on anything. And what he's saying is it's so corrupt. Nobody's ever heard of a thing like this. It's called pick 'em. It's like the lottery. Pick 'em. You pick 'em. And you don't have to be, even though in a criminal case you have to be unanimous, you don't have to be. Just give a couple of votes, because the judge, unfortunately, is corrupt. Judge Jeanine Pirro, no one has heard of this. It's like there's a menu column A, B, or C. You don't have to agree on it. This is a kangaroo court. This is unheard of. I've never seen anything like it. I've done this for 32 years. I'm not a federal prosecutor, I'm a state prosecutor, so I know what I'm talking about. I'm not a federal judge, I'm a county judge, just like Bersha. This is New York law, this is my wheelhouse. He is 100% wrong. He's wrong. That's what Jeanine Pirro, very good woman, very smart woman. Jonathan Turley, this is becoming a 3-card Monte game on where is the crime? Smart guy, where is the crime? Mike Davis, the U.S. would sanction a country for doing this. I think that's good. I think that's good. Steve Hilton, it seems that every single day these proceedings go on, the judge and the prosecutor just go out of their way to prove Trump's point. And I guess they are proving my point when you think. That's why I write some of these things that are very sad. Mark Levin, this Stalinist-like case, it's a Stalinist-like case. It has prevented President Trump from running for office. It has prevented him from campaigning. He's unable to campaign because he's been in a courthouse for 5 weeks. And yet we just had a poll came out, NPR. Trump's 54, Biden's 42. And that's with independents. That's the best we've ever had. They said this is the single best poll that Trump has ever had with independents. Trump's largest lead among independent voters, NPR Marist College, 44-28, and Junior is way down, way down. But it's 44. Junior, who's extremely liberal, by the way, he's extremely radical left. I think you know that. But he seems to be hurting Biden probably a little bit. So that's it. It's a disgrace. The millions and millions of dollars that are spent daily on this case. Outside, it looks like it's Fort Knox, like they're guarding this. I've never seen so many policemen. Now, with Columbia University, you can plant a tent right in front of the main door, no problem. NYU, just put your tent up. Don't worry about it. Over here, but I just want to say that this is a very sad day for America. The whole world is watching, and it's a very sad day for New York. I've gone through 2 of these trials already. It's with the same kind of a judge. It's all worked. It's all rigged. The whole thing, the whole system is rigged. Judge Engoron was overturned 5 times in my case, and he's going to be overturned again. And we were treated very, very badly. And the outside world is watching, and the outside world is just not going to bring their business to New York. And that's going to cost the city trillions and the state trillions and trillions of dollars. Businesses are leaving, and people are fleeing. So you can see the quotes yourself, and thank you all very much. We'll comment later on in the evening, but we'll be here, it looks like a long time. Thank you.
I think that was well said. I like how he's resilient and willing to fight this to the end. Even as old as he is, 78 years old, I mean, that's got to do a toll on you mentally and physically. But the fact that he said that the real battle is going to be in November, he was really right about that, and that's the truth. I mean, that is the real fight this November. At the polls, when we decide who will be the next commander-in-chief. These political persecutions are nothing but a joke. And like I said before, if anything, this is just growing his audience. This is getting him more supporters and making people less trusting in the justice system. We've even seen the New York Post, CNN, MSNBC. They're not afraid to talk about this like they used to be. Like they even say this is somewhat ridiculous. This is laughable. And obviously you have your Joy Reids of the world who are going to continuously say that Donald Trump is an evil force of the world that's going to send us into World War III and take away all of our freedoms. She's just completely lopsided with Trump derangement syndrome. I would also consider Robert De Niro to be in that boat as well. Then we have Stephen Miller on The Benny Show. He grills Judge Merchan just after the verdict came in and how the double standard is as evident as ever in our country.
You understand, he knows as a technical matter that there isn't a precedent for appealing jury instructions. In other words, that phase of the trial, there's no appeals. So he knows, how's that remedied? It's remedied on appeal post-conviction. It's a reversible trial error, right? So what is he doing? He's saying, I don't give a damn. Get me my damn conviction. The appeals court will do what it'll do months after the election. Just get me my damn conviction. Getting rigging it in broad daylight. And there's no consequences. Where's the Bar Association? Nowhere to be found. No one's even implying or suggesting that he would lose his law license. But again, all of these problems are solvable and will be solved. To keep going back to this point is if you want to save your country as much as they want to destroy it, and you do what has to be done from an organizing and a community standpoint to achieve that, there are things that every one of you can be doing every single day in your community to help achieve the saving of our country. So be informed, yes, but then use that information to act constructively on a daily basis. Because, right now, as we're having this conversation, the radical left is out there organizing and scheming and plotting in every which way they can. And you have to be doing just as much work in defense of this country as others are doing in pursuit of its end.
Like I said, the mainstream media is not afraid to talk about how Donald Trump was politically persecuted to a level we've never seen. Here's a Fox reporter actually saying how Judge Merchan taking this case was not random at all.
Filed an official misconduct complaint against Judge Merchan, insisting that his selection to handle Trump's case is not random at all, calling on the Inspector General of New York's court system to investigate. Andrew, what are your thoughts on this? Because, this is the same judge that oversaw Steve Bannon and other areas of Trump's world. I mean, it wasn't random that they selected him, was it?
No, I think that we've got deep issues in the New York judicial process of getting judges selected. It has to be neutral and independent. It has to be random. It doesn't appear to be that way. He continues to be put on Trump cases one after another, and it sounds like there's some shuffling and poker playing going on within the judiciary to make that happen. So I think that that investigation is very important.
And that's the reality. If you're not familiar, this was prosecuted by defense attorney Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg passed this case up originally. And it was only until he ran for district office and privately met with Joe Biden that he decided to take this case. He campaigned on the idea that he's going to go after Donald Trump for these ridiculous charges. And in his case, it did work in the most unlawful and bastardized way we've ever seen. But here's where it gets even worse. Biden actually had his number 3 DOJ, Matthew Colangelo. He helped Alvin Bragg prosecute Trump here. Well, guess what? Trump has a gag order against Matthew Colangelo, not allowing him to speak of his name even in court. So all these gag orders, all the ways that they're not even allowing Donald Trump to share his side of the story is a clear obstruction of justice. And those people deserve to go in jail. They need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and we need to take this country back because that is unacceptable. That is absolutely ridiculous. This is not politics. This is a fight for our freedom and our rights. If this can happen to Donald Trump, a presidential candidate and a former commander-in-chief, what do you think will happen to you? Just like I've been saying from the very beginning, and I was called a conspiracy theorist for it. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, we still have faith in the justice system. It all started with Alex Jones when they took him off the air, when they tried to get him taken off the face of the earth by, even to this day, trying to make him pay like trillions of dollars for just the most ridiculous things. And they're trying to literally take him off air today. Intelligence agencies are currently surrounding InfoWars. That's another story, but it all started with that. And then they went after Andrew Tate. Then they went after Donald Trump. They banned Nick Fuentes. It's all coming to full circle. They cannot stand anyone who is anti-establishment, pro-human, and has an audience that will back them. Those three things will get you, or will put a target on your back by the deep state. And the deep state meaning the people who are in power, who are not elected officials. The various agencies that conspire together, the NGOs, the social media companies, Media Matters, ADL, they are private actors for the government doing their bidding. This is the reality of it. We cannot allow the weaponization of justice to do this to us. And as Christians, as Americans, we cannot sit back idly and just let things happen. We need to fight. We need to be a resistance now. This is ridiculous. I mean, the 2030 agenda, this stripping of our freedoms is happening in real time. It's like a movie, but unless we put up a fight, nothing is going to change. And that starts with working on the local level, get involved with your community, get involved in local politics. Start something self-sustainable. Start your own business. We have to do things and find ways to exclude the government because it's so clear that they are the enemy. The deep state, the authoritarian, centralized systems of power, that is the true enemy. And it's not 7,000 miles away. It's not some foreign country. It's right here at home. It's the Anthony Fauci's, the George Soros, the people that are by a tip of the finger doing whatever they want to. And they can do whatever they want to their enemies and will not face the consequences for it. That bastardization of justice is something we cannot let continuing to pursue, because let's think of this, right? Obviously, conservatives are going to be really pissed and sought out for revenge. I mean, I am. I think that we have every right to. But this sets the precedent moving forward that every election is going to be politically persecuted. Left or right. That is the precedent we're setting here. It's dangerous. It's unlawful. And, I think the best thing we can do here is just keep fighting. Say the future looks bright. Because when we lose hope, that's when we lose. They want us to lose hope. The government wants us to be slaves. They want us to bow down to their mandates and their high taxes and their monopolization of everything. They want us to bow down to that system. And the second we completely comply is the second we lose everything. I mean, think about in the 1940s in Nazi Germany, when Hitler gave everyone no hope, and he knew everyone had no hope. That was easy for him. That's how he was able to rise to power, because there was no hope. And that goes the same as us. We have to stay positive, stay bright, and be a resistance. Being a resistance is key. Because, I mean, this is something that most conservatives have been very black-pilled about. I don't want to be that way. I like to be very explanatory about what's going on, and opinionated to a point, of course. But looking at this from the black pill perspective is not the way to do this, because obviously it sucks. Obviously, there's every reason to be mad and pissed. But we got to keep a good attitude. We got to say the future looks bright, because unless we actually do something about this, unless we keep a good attitude, I mean, we will lose it all, folks. It is that simple. I mean, we're losing it right now, but we have to keep the America First movement, the nationalist American dignity and the pride intact. That's what we're losing. But yeah, the real battle will be this November. This is the political hunt of the century. We've never seen anything like this besides Abraham Lincoln in the 1860 election. He was taken off of 8 states, or actually 11 states' ballots, and still won. But yeah, that's where we are right now. We are in a Civil War type moment. And yeah, we're going to see how this plays out, because if Donald Trump does not win regardless, there will be civil war in this country. This is what will happen. It will be unacceptable. You think January 6th was bad? It'll be 50 times that, because everyone is fed up. Nobody wants 4 more years of Joe Biden. Nobody wants the globalist agenda. I really hope nobody wants to destroy America, but some people have convinced me that they do in this country. And we have to cut ties with foreign wars. We have to stop funding Ukraine and Israel. We have to stop. The GOP needs to stop bending over to Israel. That is a first and foremost. And I'm not afraid to say that, because we're giving these people a crazy good deal in military. We're helping these people out and sending them all this money. They screw us over. They literally steal our intelligence. They're currently killing innocent people. That's a completely another story, but we need to be out of these foreign wars. We're $34 trillion in debt. We need to get our own house in order. We are far from wanting to worry about anyone else's problems. The weaponization of justice, the illegal aliens storming into this country. I mean, the trans movement, school shooters, mental health. It just goes on and on and on. Oh, but we got to worry about Ukraine, Israel. Oh, but, we're going to be very selective. We don't give a shit about Azerbaijan and, the 100,000 Christian Armenians that died last December. Nope. It's all selective. And it's a very corrupt system. And yeah, I don't know. This will be interesting to see how it plays out. This is a movie. And yeah. The RNC is the 15th to the 18th, and his trial is the 11th. So I think I got that wrong the first time. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do try to put him behind bars before the RNC convention. He obviously can still run. He can still be nominated as the candidate. But let's go through all eventualities here. Let's just say in a hypothetical sense, Donald Trump gets assassinated. If that happens right before the RNC delegation or the process, what will happen is there will have to be a random selection of 5 delegates on the floor right then and there at the convention. Only people who attend the convention. And they will literally vote who will be the Republican nominee out of 5 people at the convention, which literally could be anybody. So, in case anyone was curious about that, that is what would happen. And before we end the show here, I want to make another prediction. I think that Joe Biden will drop out of this race. I think he's going to announce this in the next month. I think I predicted in August that he would do this. say after 4th of July, Joe Biden drops out of this race. He says the economy's doing so well and everything's doing so great that he's just going to step down after this term. That is my prediction. I think it's going to happen. And I don't know. I also have this crazy feeling that, you know, as close as we are to November, Trump and Biden might not be the candidates. You know, that might be crazy to hear, but I could see that being a real possibility. I mean, I don't think anything is off the table at this point, as crazy as things are. I mean, we are in uncharted territory right now. And just thinking about the movies that they're going to make about this years and years from now, the Netflix documentaries, we are living this. We are a part of this. And what we do moving forward will determine, are we going to be on the right side of history? Are we going to be the 1776 predecessors that got us to where we are and the freedom that we have today? Or are we going to bow down and be on the wrong side of history? Because that accounts for everybody, not just the evil people who are controlling our country, but the ones who are silent and complicit to their ways, the ones who don't stand up and actually have a voice and choose to fight, because that's very many. And I know that the Biden administration was wrong for this and the unconstitutional vaccine mandate, but how many people gave into that? How many people said, well, if I lose my job, you know, I can't survive. I have to take this vaccine because, oh, well, my job. I said no. I was willing to lose my job. I know people that were actually government workers that did lose their jobs temporarily because they resisted this ridiculous vaccine. And it just shows the level of compliance that they want out of you. This goes with everything. The justice system, COVID, the trans ideology, masking. They want you dehumanized. They want you a puppet, a working robot with no sense of anything. Because once they do that, they have all the use for you in the world. They don't want people that are anti-establishment. They don't want people who are making money on their own platforms by calling out government propaganda. That's not in their best interest. And of course they're going to try to shut that down. Of course they're going to ban you on social media, try to put you in jail over dumb charges. And if that doesn't work, they put a bullet in your head. That is the 3-step process of the Matrix, because that is what we are in. This is a matrix set up. And the people in power make choices that benefit the people in power, nobody else. So that's the reality. And yeah, hopefully Donald Trump does come out of this victorious. I think that once this gets to the, I would say once it gets to the Supreme Court, or even if it does get that far, they would shut this down. It's all about just making this hard on him. It's all about taking everything they can and doing everything they can to tire this man out. They would love, for more than anything, for him to say, oh, I just don't want to do this anymore because, I'm tired. It's exhausting. That's what they want. And if they don't get that, they're going to resort to other tactics. Just wait. Just wait. We have yet to see the worst. So, yeah, pretty good show. We're going to be having someone else next week. I know this was a bit late on the actual reporting of the incident. We actually did a live stream right when it happened. There was an audio issue, as some of you probably know. And our stream did not get the, the proper, way to watch that. So, yeah, we'll make sure that is not an issue in the future. And, we'll be having a guest on here shortly. We'll be talking about the censorship industrial complex, the BRICS currency, some things going on in the Middle East, and interest rates. So we'll be talking about all those things next show, and we'll see you next time.